In an era of relentless live service games and microtransactions, many of us are looking back and realizing that the best value isn't found in what's new, but in what has stood the test of time. These aren't just old games. These are titles designed with a singular focus on quality content and the kind of unforgettable narrative that gives a game true soul. Are we tired of endless filler and ready to appreciate tight design and genuine craftsmanship again? Get ready to explore a list of 20 classics whose design philosophy, pacing, and emotional impact still absolutely embarrasses many of today's biggest releases. What do you call a game that still makes lists years after its debut, even after being re-released multiple times? You call it a masterclass. And for many, that's exactly what The Last of Us remains, the ultimate post-apocalyptic journey focused on character, not just combat. The story of Joel and Ellie is simply unmatched in its emotional weight, setting a bar for cinematic storytelling that few games, old or new, have even approached. The brilliance here is in the pacing. You get tense, visceral stealth action against both the infected and human enemies, but it's perfectly broken up by quiet moments of exploration, world building through environmental detail, and crucially, character interaction. Every broken bottle, every struggle for ammo, every conversation in a rainy basement ratchets up the tension and reinforces the brutal reality of their world. It's a survival story that genuinely makes you feel the weight of their choices. This game is a testament to focused, disciplined design. There are no sprawling open-world maps or endless collectibles designed to pad playtime. Everything serves the central narrative and the emotional arc. You know that moment when the story hits a beat so hard it forces you to pause and reflect? The Last of Us is packed with those. It proves that a linear, tightly edited experience often delivers exponentially more value than 100 hours of meandering fetch quests. The original Dead Space established the tone, but Dead Space 2 is where the survival horror series truly hit its peak, morphing Isaac Clarke from a silent engineer into a tormented, talking action hero. This sequel took everything that was terrifying and tense about the first game, the dismemberment, the zero-G segments, the haunting atmosphere, and cranked the scale and intensity up to 11. And here's where it gets interesting. The level design is phenomenal. The Sprawl, a massive residential city floating in space, is a maze of abandoned malls, schools, and apartment complexes, each section providing a brilliant visual showcase for the sheer desperation and isolation of the outbreak. Unlike the cramped Ishimura, this larger setting makes the necromorph threat feel impossibly vast, yet the intimate, claustrophobic encounters still manage to make you jump right out of your seat. The combat feels substantially improved, too. Isaac's newfound agility and the addition of the spear gun and other devastating weapons give you a true sense of empowerment, even as the enemy types become more varied and genuinely disturbing. It strikes a rare, perfect balance. It's terrifying enough to be genuine horror, but the gameplay loop is so satisfyingly fast-paced that you're always eager for the next encounter. It's an old-school masterpiece of spectacle and dread. Before the massive open-world titles, there was Arkham Asylum, a perfectly contained, narrative-driven experience that redefined what a superhero game could be. The premise, Batman trapped in a madhouse while the Joker runs riot, is simple, elegant, and instantly compelling. This is the game that gave us the revolutionary free-flow combat system, which still feels fluid, weighty, and immensely satisfying almost 15 years later. The game is a masterclass in atmosphere and environmental storytelling. Being trapped on the island with the worst of Batman's rogues gallery creates a palpable sense of danger, and exploring the gothic, decaying halls of the Asylum is a terrifying joy. Every shadow is a potential threat, and every corner holds an Easter egg for a devoted DC fan. It truly feels like walking through a comic book brought to life. What really makes it stand out against modern contemporaries is its focus and economy of design. It's a tight, expertly paced adventure that doesn't overstay its welcome. The stealth and predator sequences requiring careful planning and observation are just as crucial as the combat, making you feel like the world's greatest detective. If you want a perfectly polished, focused, and unforgettable superhero experience, this one still dominates. When Dark Souls arrived, it didn't just become a game, it became a genre, a cultural phenomenon, and a universal benchmark for difficulty and rewarding design. The game's true value isn't just in its famous challenge, it's in the quiet, atmospheric brilliance of its world. Lordran, and the subtle, deliberate way it forces you to learn, adapt, and ultimately earn your victories. The level design alone is worth the price of admission. The interlocking layered world is a marvel of spatial storytelling, where shortcuts link vastly different areas, making the slow, arduous progress feel truly meaningful. The sense of discovery, of opening a door that takes you back to an area you first visited hours ago, is unmatched. It's a world that demands respect and rewards curiosity with secrets and lore that are often hidden in item descriptions, not clumsy cutscenes. Many modern games have attempted to capture that Souls-like feeling, but few have nailed the pure, crushing weight of its combat and the deeply satisfying loop of defeat, learning, and triumph. You know that moment after hours of banging your head against a boss when you finally deliver the killing blow? That feeling is the core value Dark Souls delivers, making every single hour of playtime feel earned and important. While later GTA titles have focused on vast, sprawling worlds and over-the-top antics, GTA 4 remains a grounded, gritty, and deeply atmospheric experience that arguably tells the series' most compelling and human story. Starring Nico Bellic, a cynical immigrant looking for the American dream in a stand-in for New York City, the game provides a commentary on post-9/11 America that is still sharp and relevant today. What sets this game apart is its incredible sense of place. Liberty City is dark, rain-slicked, and crowded. It feels genuinely alive, more so than some far more detailed modern open worlds. The physics, particularly the ragdoll animations and car handling, are heavier and more realistic, giving a raw, almost brutal feel to every crash and every shootout. You're not a superhero, you're a desperate man clawing for a chance. The true genius lies in its narrative choices. The game forces you to make decisions with genuine, morally ambiguous consequences that impact the ending. This weight of choice elevates it beyond a simple sandbox. It's a narrative drama dressed up as an open-world crime epic. GTA 4 proves that sometimes less is more. A focused story in a hyper-realistic setting delivers a lasting impact that big, bloated maps just can't touch. If you're looking for a game that offers true, meaningful role-playing, why bother with anything new when Fallout New Vegas exists? Obsidian took the post-apocalyptic framework and built a story centered entirely on player choice, faction politics, and the consequences of your decisions across the Mojave Wasteland. The value here is exponential, because the narrative space they carved out is vast and incredibly reactive, ensuring that no two playthroughs ever feel quite the same. What really elevates New Vegas is the quality of the writing, particularly the dialogue and the deep, often morally gray interactions with key characters like Mr. House, Caesar, and the NCR leadership. It's not just a wasteland of things to kill, it's a political tinderbox where your small actions can spark a large-scale war or forge an unlikely alliance. You know that moment when a conversation option completely changes the course of the next 20 hours? That's the New Vegas experience in a nutshell. While the technical foundation might be a little rough around the edges, it is an older Bethesda-era title. After all, the sheer content density, combined with the 4 excellent DLC expansions, makes this a narrative powerhouse that offers hundreds of hours of genuinely engaging gameplay. It forces you to define your character, your morals, and your place in the world, which is exactly why it still dominates the conversation about RPG excellence. Dishonored is a textbook example of a game that rewards player creativity and systemic mastery, standing proudly against modern stealth games that often hold your hand too much. Set in the plague-ridden, steampunk industrial city of Dunwall, you play as Corvo Attano, an assassin with supernatural powers, but the core genius is the sandbox level design. Each area is a dense, beautiful puzzle box waiting to be broken. The value proposition here is pure replayability. You can blast through using brutal combat, or you can complete entire missions without being detected or even without killing anyone, and the world reacts to your level of chaos, which is a brilliant touch. The combination of Corvo's powers, from the blink teleport to the ability to possess rats, creates an emergent gameplay loop that encourages constant, satisfying experimentation. It's the ultimate feeling of becoming a supernatural predator. And here's where it gets interesting. The atmosphere is thick enough to cut with a rusty blade. The visual design, inspired by 19th century London and Edinburgh, is simply gorgeous, creating a darkly compelling backdrop for the dark narrative of betrayal and revenge. If you want a game where the developers truly trusted you to find your own path to success and then rewarded you for it, this one is an essential experience. Long before the Far Cry formula became repetitive, Far Cry 3 arrived and delivered an electrifying, perfectly paced open-world experience with an iconic villain. Playing as Jason Brody, a tourist thrust into a jungle war, the game masterfully blends tight, satisfying sandbox combat with a psychological narrative that explores the thin line between hero and monster. It's a game that had soul because it felt like a complete, focused vision. The moment you encounter Vas Montenegro, you know you're in for something special. His unpredictable, philosophical brand of madness created a character so compelling that he carried the entire game's sense of danger and chaotic energy. The narrative, driven by Jason's descent into violence, gave context to the open-world activities. It wasn't just a map full of icons, it was a fight for survival and sanity. The actual gameplay loop is incredibly strong too. Liberating enemy outposts using a combination of stealth, takedowns, and explosive chaos still feels amazing, and the addition of the crafting and skill systems made exploration feel genuinely rewarding. Far Cry 3 provides a high-octane tropical playground that balances action, suspense, and a genuinely gripping story, a balance many of its sequels have failed to recapture. Mirror's Edge is a prime example of a game that took a massive creative risk and achieved timeless success through unparalleled artistic vision and tight, singular mechanics. Set in a sterile, hyper-clean city where information is tightly controlled, you play as Faith, a runner who specializes in free-running parkour across the rooftops. The game's value is found entirely in its unique first-person traversal system. The feeling of momentum in this game is sublime. Executing a perfect sequence, a wall run, a slide under a pipe, and a jump to a distant rooftop is an exhilarating rush. The minimalist color palette, using bright red to highlight interactive elements, is genius, turning the environment into a fluid, visual puzzle. You know that moment when you get into a perfect rhythm and the game just melts away. Mirror's Edge delivers that feeling over and over again. While the combat can be clunky, and that's often by design, encouraging you to keep moving, the core platforming experience is so refined and unique that it completely carries the title. It's a beautifully minimalist game that prioritizes flow and movement above all else, offering an experience that is still completely unique in the landscape of modern gaming. This is artistic design and mechanical purity at its best. After years away, Rockstar took the reins for Max Payne 3 and delivered a brutal, stylish, and deeply melancholic neo-noir action thriller set in the sun-baked streets of São Paulo. This game didn't just iterate on the beloved bullet time mechanic, it perfected it, integrating environmental destruction and cinematic camera work into every single gunfight, making the action feel impossibly cinematic. The key value here is the phenomenal shooting mechanics. The movement, the weight of the guns, and the slow-motion dives are incredibly tight, making every encounter a hyper-stylized dance of destruction. But what makes it truly old-school excellent is the tone. Max is a broken, cynical wreck of a man narrating his own downfall with incredibly sharp, depressing internal monologue. It's a character study as much as it is an action game. The level design maintains an exceptional, almost linear pace, moving Max from one claustrophobic shootout to the next, which maintains the story's tension and focus perfectly. There are no side quests or filler. It's a pure, unadulterated, brilliantly directed narrative experience that focuses entirely on delivering the highest quality action and emotional resonance. If you want a classic third-person shooter that feels better than 90% of what's made today, look no further. Alan Wake is the kind of psychological thriller that modern horror games often attempt but rarely achieve, setting a new standard for narrative atmosphere and inspired episodic structure. Playing as a writer whose fiction literally comes to life, the game plunges you into the pitch-black woods of Bright Falls, where light is your only weapon against the Taken. The concept alone delivers unique gameplay value that feels fresh even today. The game's true genius lies in its presentation. Each chapter is framed like an episode of a dark television series, complete with cliffhangers, opening recaps, and incredible licensed music choices. This focus on tight, high-quality pacing ensures that the narrative tension never slacks off. And here's where it gets interesting. The combat, where you must first expose enemies with a flashlight before shooting them, is a simple yet brilliant mechanic that integrates the light-dark theme directly into the action. The atmosphere of the Pacific Northwest, constantly shifting between eerie calm and terrifying chaos, is unforgettable. It's a tight, focused story that doesn't rely on jump scares, but rather on dread, existential horror, and a complex meta-narrative about the craft of writing. Alan Wake is proof that a game with a strong, singular voice and high production quality will always offer a deeper, more satisfying experience than a sprawling, unfocused blockbuster. This is a deep cut that deserves to be remembered as a pioneer of cinematic, character-driven action on its console. Heavenly Sword gave us Noriko, a fiery protagonist wielding a powerful, shape-shifting blade, and offered a beautifully orchestrated, focused adventure centered on Eastern-inspired mythology and spectacular set pieces. Its value lies in its relentless, high-octane spectacle and surprisingly emotional core. The combat system is the star of the show, allowing Noriko to dynamically switch between 3 fighting stances: speed, range, and power, to adapt to different enemy types, creating a fluid, rhythmic, and incredibly satisfying flow. It was also one of the earliest games to truly nail quick-time events that felt integrated into the action, elevating the boss battles to genuinely epic heights. What makes it feel old-school great is its tight, disciplined focus. It's a relatively short game by modern standards, but every minute is packed with high-quality animation, expressive character acting, and breathtaking visual flair. It proves that you don't need 80 hours of filler. You need 8 hours of brilliant, concentrated cinematic action that leaves a lasting impression, and Heavenly Sword delivers exactly that. You know that moment when a game manages to perfectly capture the hyper-stylized chaos of a classic Hong Kong action movie? That's Sleeping Dogs. This open-world crime epic set in a wonderfully realized Hong Kong is a perfect blend of tight, street-level brawling, high-speed chases, and an intricate undercover cop narrative that provides huge value for money. The true highlight is the combat. It's arguably one of the best hand-to-hand fighting systems in any open-world game, period. Inspired by martial arts films, the melee combat is fast, brutal, and uses environmental takedowns that are hilarious and devastating in equal measure. Blending that intense close-quarters fighting with the smooth, parkour-inspired traversal creates an addictive sandbox loop that keeps things constantly kinetic. The atmosphere of Hong Kong, from the crowded night markets to the neon-drenched streets, is utterly captivating and acts as a dynamic backdrop to the escalating tension of Wei Shen's story. It's a game that simply overflows with style, great side activities, karaoke, anyone, and a focus on polished core mechanics that many modern, larger titles forget. If you want a perfect blend of GTA and a martial arts flick, this is still the undisputed champion. While controversial upon release, Dante's Inferno is a game that delivered a wildly ambitious and visually arresting hack-and-slash adventure, offering pure, unadulterated spectacle that still impresses. Inspired by the first part of Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, the game takes you on a visceral tour through the 9 circles of hell, delivering a narrative and aesthetic value unmatched in the genre. The gameplay is a direct descendant of the classic character action games, featuring satisfying scythe combat, flashy magic attacks, and brutal finishing moves. The progression system, which allows you to upgrade Dante based on whether you choose to absolve or punishes the souls of the damned, adds a small layer of moral ambiguity and replay value to the carnage. But here's where it gets interesting. The environment design. Each of the 9 circles, from the lustful winds of Limbo to the frozen wastes of Treachery, is a grotesque, unique biome filled with phenomenal, often disturbing enemy designs and massive, memorable boss encounters. The sheer scale and creativity in depicting hell makes it a thematic powerhouse that provides a focused, high-octane adventure that doesn't waste a minute of your time. Remember when games weren't afraid to make you an insanely overpowered anti-hero destroying everything in your path? Prototype is a brilliant throwback to that era, giving you control of Alex Mercer, a super-powered shapeshifter with truly spectacular destructive capabilities. Its primary value is the sheer sense of freedom and power it grants the player in a dense, open-world Manhattan. The core loop is pure mayhem. Leap off skyscrapers, glide across the city, and unleash devastating biological attacks on military and infected forces alike. The ability to consume enemies to gain health, memories, and abilities is a genius mechanic that ties into the narrative mystery of Mercer's past, giving context to the carnage. It's the ultimate super sandbox where you can truly feel like an unstoppable force of nature. Against modern titles that often gate progression, Prototype throws you into the deep end and encourages you to experiment with destruction from the outset. The combat, while chaotic, is incredibly varied thanks to the morphing blade, claws, whip fist, and armor abilities. If you want a game that focuses purely on empowering the player with an immediate sense of consequence-free, high-speed urban destruction, this forgotten gem still delivers. Before every open-world game was cluttered with towers and markers, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor broke the mold by introducing the revolutionary Nemesis system, a feature that still hasn't been truly replicated or surpassed in modern gaming. This system gives the game its incredible replay value. It allows randomly generated orc captains and war chiefs to remember your past encounters, adapt to your tactics, and rise through the ranks to become recurring personal rivals. You know that moment when a generic enemy actually shouts your name and mocks the way you failed to kill him the first time? That's the brilliance of Mordor. The system creates organic, emergent storytelling, making every successful assassination, humiliating defeat, or strategic betrayal feel personal and meaningful. The base action, a combination of the fluidity of Batman Arkham combat with the stealth of the Assassin's Creed series, is already satisfying, but the Nemesis system elevates it to something truly special. The exploration of Mordor, particularly the dark, atmospheric ruins, and the focus on collecting intel to exploit weaknesses, creates a satisfying loop of strategic vengeance. It perfectly captures the gritty, personal warfare of a ranger operating deep behind enemy lines. Shadow of Mordor is an old-school standout because it prioritizes systemic innovation that empowers the player to create their own unique, unscripted epic. When the Tomb Raider series was rebooted in 2013, it delivered an origin story that wasn't just a great return to form, it was a tight, focused survival adventure that successfully blended cinematic storytelling with brutal, grounded action. This game offers immense value by throwing Lara Croft into a desperate fight for survival on a hostile Japanese island, forcing her to evolve from an archaeologist into a hardened survivor. The pacing is immaculate. The game constantly shifts between tense, cover-based shooting, challenging platforming across ancient ruins, and environmental puzzle solving that, while simpler than the classics, still provides excellent breaks in the action. The introduction of the bow and arrow as a primary weapon, alongside the robust upgrade system, makes progression feel earned and impactful. It's a testament to focused design where everything serves the theme of survival. What makes this iteration still stand out against later, more open-world attempts is its sense of desperation and emotional honesty. The narrative is intense, driven by Lara's struggle and the excellent use of the stunning but dangerous island environment. Tomb Raider 2013 provides a powerful, contained adventure that focuses on quality narrative delivery over quantity, which is why it holds up so well today. The Saboteur is one of the most stylish and underappreciated open-world games ever made, offering a unique historical setting, Nazi-occupied Paris, and an incredible black-and-white visual motif that gave the game genuine soul. The value proposition is the seamless integration of its mechanics with its brilliant art direction. As the French resistance gains influence in an area, the city shifts from oppressive black and white to vibrant color, representing the spark of hope. Playing as Sean Devlin, a hard-drinking, charismatic Irish racecar mechanic turned resistance fighter, the gameplay is pure, chaotic fun. It combines stealth, climbing mechanics, and explosive sabotage with smooth cover-based shooting. The focus is always on disrupting the Nazi regime, whether you're blowing up strategic targets or silencing officers in a crowded cafe. And here's where it gets interesting. The verticality of Paris, including the ability to climb landmarks like the Eiffel Tower, makes traversal dynamic and constantly engaging. The atmosphere is intoxicating, mixing classic noir tropes with explosive action movie sensibilities. The Saboteur is a brilliant reminder that aesthetic value and unique mechanical hooks, like the Will to Fight's color mechanic, can deliver an immersive experience that modern titles rarely attempt. If you want a game that throws nuance out the window and delivers pure, unadulterated FPS chaos, Bulletstorm is your answer. This game's value is entirely built around its brilliant skill shot system, which actively encourages players to kill enemies in the most creative, ridiculous, and violent ways possible, constantly rewarding you for style over efficiency. It's a breath of fresh air compared to the grim seriousness of many modern shooters. The core mechanic, using the energy leash to whip enemies towards you or towards environmental hazards, is one of the most innovative FPS tools of its generation. Kicking an enemy onto a cactus, electrocuting them on a power line, or launching them into a ceiling fan all earn points, which are then used to upgrade your gloriously over-the-top arsenal. The writing is equally loud and unapologetic, featuring constant, hilarious banter and intentionally cheesy dialogue. What sets it apart as an old-school classic is its complete commitment to fun and focused action. There's no complex progression or sprawling map. It's a linear, high-energy roller coaster ride designed purely to maximize spectacular destruction. Bulletstorm proves that sometimes, the best value in gaming is simply a high-octane shooter that never takes itself seriously and is constantly rewarding you for being a magnificent jerk. Kingdoms of Amalur. Reckoning is a forgotten RPG gem that provides an overwhelming amount of content and a combat system so fluid and engaging. It still puts many modern role-playing games to shame. Created by an all-star team including fantasy author R.A. Saboteur and Elder Scrolls designer Ken Rolston, this game's value lies in its sheer scope, deep lore, and excellent fusion of action and statistics. The combat is the major draw. It seamlessly blends real-time hack-and-slash action with deep RPG progression. The Destiny system allows you to constantly hybridize your class, mixing might, finesse, and sorcery on the fly, encouraging experimentation and preventing the typical lock-in feeling of other RPGs. It's a combat loop that is fast, acrobatic, and genuinely exciting from the first hour to the last. The world of Amalur is massive, packed with well-written side quests, deep dungeons, and interesting faction storylines that provide hundreds of hours of quality playtime. You know that feeling when an RPG world just sucks you in? Amalur does that with its vibrant, high-fantasy aesthetic and density of content. It's a high-value game that delivers a classic, expansive RPG experience without the bloat, making it an essential play. So there you have it, 20 older titles that prove that true value for money isn't about the release date, but about the integrity of the design and the sheer quality of the experience. These games weren't built on monetization models, they were built on soul, focus, and a relentless commitment to player enjoyment, which is why they still stand head and shoulders above many of today's modern blockbusters. Which of these classics gave you the biggest return on your investment, and which old game do you think still destroys the competition? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the absolute best games of all time. We've only just scratched the surface of true greatness,